Get ready to amaze with a trick that feels totally random until it hits every single time. A self-working marvel, 0 sleights, super easy to perform, and ends with a kicker that will leave everyone stunned. So, grab a deck and let's make the impossible look easy. Okay, so as ever, let's just kickstart by taking a look at the effect itself, a spectator multi-card discovery. And we can just start by giving the cards a quick mix. Now we're going to ask the spectator to make a number of choices. The first thing we're going to ask them to do is to choose any number between 2 and 15. It's a totally free choice, and just to name that number. Let's say in this instance, they name the number 6. You're now going to take the deck and deal that many cards into 3 piles on the table. So in this case, 6 cards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We're now going to ask the spectator to choose a second number, this time either side of the first number. So remember, they've just selected 6, so now they'll choose either 5 or 7. Let's say they choose the number 7. You'll now deal that many cards onto the piles. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now 3 times is a charm, so just for good measure, we're going to ask the spectator to choose a third number, this time either side of their first 2 numbers. Remember, they've already selected 6 and 7, so this time they're going to choose either 5 or 8. Let's say they choose the number 8. You're now going to deal that many cards onto the piles. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. At this point, you can just emphasize to the spectator that this is a totally random number of cards as dictated by their randomly selected numbers. Ask the spectator just to remember those numbers because we'll come back to them just a little later. Remember, in this instance, they were 6, 7, and 8. You can now just gather up the cards here because there's one more choice we want the spectator to make. From the remainder of the deck over here, you're now going to ask the spectator to choose a finder card. So ask them now just to cut a small number of cards from the top of the pack, not too many, it's a totally free choice though. Let's say they cut some cards here to turn these over and just place them back on top. You're now going to ask them to make a second cut, a few more cards this time, say about halfway. Let's say they cut just about here and to turn these over and to place them back on top of the pack. You're now going to take the cards and spread through until you get to the first face down card as cut by the spectator. And we're going to remove this as the finder card. And you can place the rest of the cards to the side. Now you're going to explain that the finder card here is a very special card. Indeed, it can have a remarkable effect on the other cards in the pack. But first of all, we just want to mix things up even more. Explain now that you're going to do that by once again utilising the random numbers selected by the spectator earlier. So ask them just to remind everyone of their selected numbers. Of course, in this instance, they were 6, 7, and 8. You're going to start with the first of those numbers, 6, in order to mix up the cards here, dealing cards to the bottom of the pack. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, taking the final card and placing this on the table. You're now going to repeat the same with the next number, the number 7, again placing cards onto the bottom of the pack. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and placing the final card onto the table. And that leaves one final number, the number 8, which we'll now use to mix the cards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Again, the final card going on to the table, and you can just place the rest of the cards to the side. At this point, you can just recap with the spectator that the selected cards here are totally random, chosen from freely selected numbers. There is no way that you could know which numbers would be chosen or which cards would be selected. And furthermore, the cards have even been given an extra mix. Also on the table over here, we have the special finder card, also selected by the spectator. You can ask the spectator now to take the finder card and just to lightly touch it onto each of the other cards on the table, explaining that something special will happen. With that done, you can just ask the spectator to turn over the finder card to reveal its identity. And here we can see it's an ace. And all that's left to do now is to reveal that it really does have remarkable powers as you reveal the identity of the remaining cards. In this case, an ace, and another matching ace, which makes a remarkable 4 of a kind. A remarkable effect that's also super easy to perform, so stick around because now I will show you exactly how it works. Okay, so let's take a look at the secret to this effect. Now you just need to start with a simple bit of setup. You're going to remove the 4 aces from the deck, and you're going to start with 3 of the aces on top of the deck and the final 4th ace on the bottom of the deck. If you like, you can start with some false shuffles or cuts just to make it look as though the cards are mixed. Here's the simple false cut I performed in the presentation. Just cut a portion of cards from the top of the deck and place this on the table to the left. Then take the remaining cards of the deck and place these to the right. Cut about half of these off and place them into the middle. Now gather up the piles from left to right, and the deck is back in its original order. You're now going to ask the spectator to choose any number from 2 to 15. Let's say they choose the number 7. You're going to deal that many cards into 3 piles on the table. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You're now going to ask them to choose their second number either side of the first number. So in this instance, that's going to be either side of 7, so either 6 or 8. Let's say they select the number 8. You're now going to deal that many cards onto the 3 piles. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And for the final number, you're going to ask them to choose a number either side of their first 2 numbers. So in this case, that's going to be either side of 7 or 8. So they're going to choose either 6 or 9. Let's say they choose the number 9. You're going to deal that many cards onto the 3 piles. 1, 7, 8, 9. Make sure the spectator remembers those numbers. And with that done, you can place the rest of the deck to the side. You're now going to gather up the piles, starting with the pile to your right, placing this onto the middle pile, and then these cards on top of the pile on the left. You're now going to take the remaining cards from over here, and this pack here will still have the ace on the bottom from the beginning. You're now going to casually shuffle this ace to the top of the pack using an overhand shuffle. So just shuffling off cards until you get to the last few cards, which you'll shuffle off individually, including the final ace, which is now on top. You're now going to use a simple cut deeper force in order to select that ace. Ask the spectator just to cut a small portion of cards, to turn these over and place them back on top of the pack. Now ask them to cut slightly more cards and to turn these over and place them on top of the pack. You're now going to fan through the cards until you get to the first face down card, and you're going to remove this as the selected card, and this will be the previous top card, the ace. You're now going to take the dealt cards from over here and ask the spectator to remind you of their randomly selected numbers. In this case, of course, they were 7, 8, and 9. Starting with the lowest of those numbers, so in this case 7, you're going to count cards from the top of the pack to the bottom of the pack, just as follows with 7 cards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And you're going to take the final card and place that on the table. You're now going to repeat exactly the same with the next lowest number, so in this case, the number 8. Again, counting cards from the top to the bottom. 1, 2, 7, 8. Again, taking the final card and placing that on the table. And finally, you'll take the last number, in this case the number 9, and repeat exactly the same. And however you like now, according to your presentation, you can just ask the spectator to turn over the finder card here to reveal an ace. And all that's left to do now is to turn over the other 3 cards to reveal an incredible 4 of a kind. And of course, you can use any 4 of a kind that you like. Go and amaze. And there you have it. But here's the real win. Pulling off something that looks totally random, yet ends in perfection, builds real confidence, the kind that sticks with you long after the trick is done. So hit subscribe to keep adding to your confidence, one incredible trick at a time. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next tutorial.